Hi, everybody. Josh Byerly here in Mission Control, Houston. I'm joined by my friend Ed Powers, who is a flight surgeon here at NASA. And, we talk a lot about experiment work and what the crew is doing. They do quite a bit of human research and things like that on their own bodies while they're up there. But figured, it'd be a good chance to get a flight surgeon in here and actually talk about, what you do, first of all, as a flight surgeon, because it's a whole lot more than I think what people realize. And also, what are some of the difficulties of dealing with a crew member who's not here on Earth? So, first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Talk just a minute about what you do on just a daily basis.
Okay, well, flight surgeons are kind of critical to maintaining the health status of the crew members by monitoring them basically. Every day the folks who are assigned to crew members to look out for them, and on a weekly basis we interview them and make sure for about 15 minutes at a time, make sure they're doing well on orbit. But really begins about 2 years before they launch. The flight surgeons who are assigned to an astronaut basically get to know them very well and help in their training so that they know what to do in a medical emergency on board the space station. They go through various training sessions, including running cardiac resuscitation and go through various simulations. And so this allows us to get to know the crew members very well, and we develop a relationship, a very good working relationship with them, and an amount of trust, that
Right.
goes along with that.
What do they have up on orbit? I mean, they've got the crew healthcare, basically what amounts to a mini hospital on board. But talk
hmm
about, I mean, because you can't just run down to the drugstore and get some ibuprofen or something if you need it. So how well are they stocked? What do they have up there?
Well, they have a variety of commonly used medicines. Tylenol and various other things are
Right.
there, but we also have medicines that we think could be useful in case some potential emergencies could occur. We have the advanced cardiac life support medications on
Right.
board that they're trained with, and various antibiotics and things that we think might be necessary if something were to happen up there.
So talk as a doctor, how doctors use a lot of their senses,
hmm
their sight, their hearing, they listen, the touch.
hmm
You don't have any of that really, whenever your crew member's 250 miles up in space going around the Earth. So how difficult is that? What kind of challenges do you have?
Well, it's a bit of a challenge, and that's part of the reasons why we developed such a close relationship with them in this pre-launch time frame in the training is because we get to know sort of what they're capable of doing and what their experience level is and how they approach a problem when it comes to medical issues. And so it is a little bit of a challenge, but at the same time, as we get to know them very closely, we're able to trust their eyes and ears and work with them to try to diagnose any issues that go on. Fortunately, they tend to be extremely healthy when we launch them, which is very helpful. But occasionally something will come about, and of course we have the luxury once in a while of having a physician astronaut on board,
Right.
and that makes our jobs quite a bit easier.
So let's talk about. We were out. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, out at the National Space Biomedical Research Institute here in
hmm
Houston. They just opened up a brand new facility here, and there's a lot of scientists there and doctors, MDs, PhDs talking about miniaturization.
hmm
From what I understand, that we used to have a very large ultrasound cart on board the station that took up an entire rack, and now we've got things down to basically the size of a laptop. So talk a little bit about how the space station and we sort of force ourselves to go small and go efficient. How does that lead to better stuff here on Earth for hospitals and things like that?
Well, of course, smaller is better when it comes, as long as you can keep the same fidelity. Smaller
Right.
is better, and as far as keeping track of inventory and launching into orbit, that sort of a thing, from our standpoint, is very helpful. But there are remote applications as well. There are places in the world where you just can't get medical care at the level that you would see, say, in Houston.
Right.
So to have a remote capability of something small and transportable is very helpful when you get out away from civilization a bit.
Yeah. How much do the crew members do, basically finding out about how their own bodies react to being in space, and what is that going to teach us going on? I mean, is it the more that we investigate it, the more we learn? I mean, is there more mysteries? Because, we've talked about how we've even learned that the immune system reacts differently being up there with no gravity. So what have we learned?
That's true. There's a number of research studies going on associated with universities that looking at the immune system, and there's a little bit of a decreased immune response when you get up on orbit. Tendency to maybe be a little bit more susceptible to getting a cold or something along those lines.
Hmm.
There are also bone density issues. As you go in microgravity, gravity is not pulling down on the bones. It's not the stimulation there to keep the bones healthy.
Right.
So we have learned how to supplement that by doing daily exercise, both aerobic and resistive exercise. That seems to be helping to mediate that problem with bone density and muscle weakness. Um, And then, of course, we recently have come across an issue with eyes and vision changes in space
Hmm.
that we have gotten a little bit more detail understanding what's going on there as far as fluid shifting towards the head when gravity is not pulling it down anymore. It seems to affect the fine structures of the eye and produce potentially permanent changes in the vision. And so we've been using some instrumentation up there now that hasn't been up there before. Small size ultrasonography to look at the eye. There's also a very high level optical camera that we're going to be flying soon that will be able to take a really good look at the back of the eye and try to assess the issues there. We think it could be related to fluid shifting along with high salt diet that happens to be on the space station due to the fact that the food has to be preserved for a long
Yeah.
time up there. And maybe carbon dioxide levels may have something to do with it, so we try to keep the carbon dioxide levels down. There are a number of factors that we're looking at up there that may affect certain situations here on Earth.
You mentioned exercise. Have you guys seen a difference in the crew members coming back? I mean, Ed's one of the people that goes over to Russia and Kazakhstan. We've spent many an hour on
Yeah.
helicopters and airplanes going over there. But have you guys seen a difference in now that you've got sort of a variety of different exercise equipment up there? The crew members exercise quite a bit during the day. Do you see a difference now whenever they're coming back and how their bodies are reacting?
Yes, definitely. Many of them are coming back and even a little bit better shape than when they launched. Because when they get a little distracted, the last month or so before they launch, and
Right.
sometimes exercise falls off. So when they get up there and they have a concentrated exercise program, daily exercise program, at least an hour of resistive exercise, at least an hour of cardiovascular workout every day, then sometimes they actually come back in a little bit better shape. Now, I think we finally, over the years and many crews, I think we finally have got the right approach to this, and we've got the right exercise equipment on board, and they're actually doing very well.
That's good. So talk a bit about your background. I mean, we get this question all the time. How did you get the job at NASA? So how do you go from medical school into being a flight surgeon?
Well, I grew up in the Chicago area, and so I went to medical school at Rush University in Chicago, and was very interested in surgery and emergency medicine. And so I did a postgraduate training program, first a general surgery internship, and then 2 additional years of emergency medicine, and became an emergency medicine specialist. And it just so happens I've always had the fondness of flying. I started flying when I was 15
Yeah.
with a friend's airplane, and so I was trying to combine those different interests, emergency medicine and flying and space program, and wound up doing another residency program in aerospace medicine, 2-year program in Dayton, Ohio, and eventually wound up at NASA. So I've been working as an emergency physician and an aerospace medicine physician for much of the last 10 or 15 years.
Is it still fascinating to you?
Oh yes, very much so.
Lots to learn.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Ed. It's Dr. Ed Powers, one of the flight surgeons here at NASA. If you would like to learn more about all these different types of experiments that the crew is actually doing on a daily basis about with their own bodies and how the human body reacts to being in space, you can always log on to the NASA website. Just go to www.nasa.gov/station. Just click on research and take a look at Expedition 30. So thanks again, Ed.
Good talking with you, Josh. Take care.